Good morning, happy Monday, and welcome to the Pitch Light Chronicles. I am Uncle Taz. I am here with Rob, and back from his little vacation. Donald, welcome back. And Donald, you've been away for a little while, so I'm going to hand the floor to you. Coming into the second half, was that the most embarrassing series against a low-level team like the Rockies that the Yankees could have given us?
The Yankees make history in all the wrong ways.
Yeah.
So this, and courtesy of Talking Yanks, this is the first loss in Yankee history where they had multiple two-run leads blown in the eighth inning onwards. Multiple times in the same game. That is unacceptable. And there needs to be some accountability going on here. I can't keep having Aaron Boone going, oh, we're right where we want to be. Everything's fine. We can't have that. We can't have Brian Cashman continue to sell us nonsense that Josh Donaldson is having a great year and he's just running out of bad luck. You can't keep lying to a fan base which is an educated fan base, which has seen 27 world championships and holds this team to a standard which the front office and including the coaching staff don't hold. The Yankees fans hold the Yankees to a high standard, but the Yankee organization doesn't hold themselves to that same high standard. And that's where the problem lies. That's where there's a disconnect between the fan base and the front office and the organization. You know, you saw Hal Steinbrenner saying, hey, man, I don't understand why fans are so upset. Well, this is why fans are upset. This is a series where we faced multiple guys with a 6 ERA, right? We were facing relievers that had a 300 batting average against, and we couldn't do nothing for a long time. So, stop feeding us nonsense. This is a last place team and a last place organization without Aaron Judge. And that's the simple truth. So when Brian Cashman said a couple months ago, oh, this is a championship level organization, if anyone still believes that, I have a bridge to sell you. That is not the case. That is not the reality. This team should not be in last place without Aaron Judge. That's unacceptable. Now, if you were to make an argument, okay, well, without the best player in baseball, yeah, with a Yankee payroll, they should be at worst second or third and very much still in the wild card race. But to be in last place is a complete indictment to everyone in the organization. And it starts from the top, but I don't really blame Hal Steinbrenner. I think he's done everything that could be asked of him this offseason, but it certainly falls on Brian Cashman, who's put together one of the worst rosters. And so the fact that we blew this series against Colorado is not a surprise, right? Because look at the teams that we've already lost to over the last few weeks. You know, we didn't do well against the A's. You know, we lost the first game against the A's badly, right? Then we struggled against Colorado, and we've been struggling for a while. So, let's stop the nonsense. This is a bad team. It's a last place team without Aaron Judge. Now, Aaron Judge will make this team better. But how much better? I mean, they're not going to be that much better because you look at this roster and there's roster flaws everywhere. And you see, and my last point, you see that the Yankees are now going to be active at the deadline. They're going to look for a new, maybe possibly new catcher. They're going to look for left field help. They're going to look for bullpen help. Hello? Why these? It seems like they're surprised that this has come around. Do you know what I mean? It just seems like they're surprised that this has happened. We were all saying this going into this year. We have a light hitting situation at catcher, right? But they didn't seem to be bothered about it, right? They went from one extreme where they were like, Gary Sanchez, we don't really need to worry about defense. We've got Gary Sanchez. He'll hit a couple of home runs. That's fine. That's all we need at catcher, right? But then they completely did a 180 and then changed their philosophy at catcher where it didn't matter about offense. Now it's all defense. Right, we're all in on defense, right? Trevino made the all-star team last year with defense, right? And now they're about to do another 180 again where they're going to be like, you know what, maybe we need a little bit more offense. So it just seems like they're not really planning or they're not really thinking ahead, right? So you got that situation. Left field situation has been a problem for ages, and it's been ignored and it's been a huge, huge, huge indictment on the organization. I don't understand why they seem shocked at the left fielder. They should have got this done in the winter, right? Instead of panic buying at this time of the year. Huge mistake. Bullpen. It was obvious that this team was going to need some bullpen help with the amount of usage these guys are being put under, amount of strain these guys are being put under, because outside of Garrett Cole, most of our relievers will give you most of our starters give you 5 innings, if that. Right? And then that's a lot of pressure on your bullpen. And now when you get into situations like against Colorado, where we're needing to close out a game in the 11th inning, you have to turn to Nick Ramirez. And that was always going to completely blow up in your face. So it just seems like the Yankees are shocked that this has happened. The fan base aren't shocked. We are much smarter than the Yankee organization gives us credit for. We are not stupid. We've been saying this. This was going to happen. It's very frustrating to watch, but it's not surprising. Give the floor to my guys.
So, Rob, before we get your take on this, just remember to like this video, share this video out, and if you are not, please subscribe to this channel. Help this channel grow. It is on the uprise. Our supporters are really pushing us out there, and we appreciate you all. So, Rob, let's get your take on the lack of a start of the second half.
Well, first of all, kudos to Donald, because I don't know how I could follow that up without repeating everything he just said. That tweet that I just saw from Feinsand this morning that said the Yankees want to get upgrades at 4 different positions just proves everyone's point. Everyone that has been on Twitter that does these shows, whether it be us or Talking Yanks or Pete or everyone that works with NYY News, Jason, right? Everybody, TC, Mazza, them, all of them, the Morning Brew, they've all said the same thing. This team is not constructed properly.
Yep.
Hasn't been put together properly. For $300 million, there are far too many holes. And now our GM is looking to the trade deadline where he's got a limited amount of time, and the only moves he can actually make are just trades with prospects he doesn't want to give up to upgrade 4 different positions. That proves everyone's point. The Brian Cashman, the game has passed him by. And I don't know why and again, I don't want to keep bringing him up as the big blame, but Josh Donaldson kind of is the poster boy with everything that's wrong with this team. The fact that it took for an injury for them to finally be like, let's get Peraza up here. Every other team in baseball would realize they have to move on from a declining player who's getting paid that much money and just accept the loss and go with the youth. They're treating Peraza like he's a 27-year-old journeyman. He's not. And that is a huge problem. You look at that, the fact that we still don't have a left fielder, the fact that all of our starting outfield have been on or are on the IL right now. All of our backups to those outfielders are currently on the IL. We do not have a legitimate outfielder playing the outfield right now except for Harrison Bader. You can't even put Stanton in that category because they don't play him enough in the outfield. So that is a problem. Left field's been a problem for too long. The catching situation has needed to have been upgraded for a long time. I like Higgy. I don't think he should be playing that much. I like Trevino. He's clear. He's a backup, and we're using him as a starter. And last year was just an anomaly for him. But now we need to upgrade catcher. Now we need to upgrade our bullpen because our manager can't manage one, and we have to overuse it every single year. We go through this where we're the best bullpen in baseball, and here we are saying we need an upgrade. What does that tell you? It gets overused. We need to upgrade our rotation, even though it's been okay. Even though there aren't guys that give you a ton of length. I think Rodon's going to get better as he gets more starts. We're going to get Nestor back. Hopefully he's better. Schmidt's been great. Herman's been fine. And Garrett Cole's been a Cy Young candidate this year. He might win it. He might come second or third in that voting. But the fact that we're now needing to get 4 different positions is laughable. The fact that we're still not calling up certain players in the minors because we're giving spots to Donaldson and Franchi Cordero is laughable. And I'm shocked that we're even a couple of games out of a wild card spot right now. This team should be a lot worse than they are. And it isn't, and it's only because of our pitching and guys like Judge and Bader. And at least, lately, the last couple of games, Stanton and Torres have been on fire, but that's it. That's really it. And they even found a way to mess with Anthony Volpe. He was on fire. And then what do? They moved him to the top of the order, and he's been ice cold ever since. And now they try to move him back, and he hasn't been getting going. They game plan for everything but what they should be game planning for. They plan games ahead of time. They have a bullpen budget. They're planning ahead of time in a game that you can't – we always say you can't predict baseball. The Yankees try to predict baseball, and they're always wrong. So these are our issues with this team, and I don't know if getting 4 different positions filled is going to – and getting Aaron Judge back, are we going to make the playoffs? Probably. Like if you get another starter and a bullpen guy and a left fielder and a catcher and you get Judge back and Stanton's hitting like this and Torres is hitting like this, DJ's been a little bit better, and you get Peraza up here and give him consistent at-bats, yeah, we'll probably get into the postseason, but what are we going to do when we get there? Nobody knows, but it shouldn't have to come to the deadline where you have to upgrade 4 positions. Usually when you're a contender, you're looking to get maybe 1, maybe 2. You add a bullpen arm, maybe a bench piece like 09. We added a couple of bench pieces like Hairston and Eric Hinsky. Those are our additions at the deadline. Now we're looking to get a starting left fielder, a new starting catcher, back-end bullpen help. He didn't say just a bullpen arm. He said back-end bullpen help and another starter. Yet we already have 2 big money stars at the top of the rotation. You got Sevy making $15 million. That's an issue. And this is what we've been saying for far too long. And it's just like Hal Steinbrenner doesn't want to admit that's the big issue. Like, I love what Hal's been able to do when it comes to the payroll and the fact that he stepped in to get Judge and all that stuff. But he doesn't recognize that the issue is right in front of him, and that's the guy he just gave a 4-year extension to.
Yep.
That's what we're talking about here. And it's a big issue. It's been going on for too long. And this is the product you're seeing where you're losing 2 out of 3 to Colorado. You lost 2 out of 3 to St. Louis. You lost to the Cubs. You struggled against Oakland to beat them. And at least you took 2 out of 3, but you should never have lost the game to Oakland. These are the issues with this team. Our offense has been really bad, and now our bullpen's starting to take a hit because they've been overused. And they thought that Sean Casey was just going to fix everything. When you're relying on bad players to just provide offense, it's a mess. Now, then there's the whole Aaron Judge situation. They still don't know when his timetable is. They haven't known since day one. The whole thing is a mess right now, and yet we're still out right there in the playoff race. So that tells you that there are good players here, but the organization and the whole system is just run so fraudulently. It just runs so poorly. Like it's hard to believe that a turnaround is coming soon.
Yeah, I think the two of you really. Why did I go? Why did I have to go last? Right? No, here's my take on it. Right? You always hear broadcasters when they're talking about players that are struggling that it's a humbling game. Well, this is the first time that the Yankees are sitting in last place since 1992, I believe it was, and I think that was the year I saw it in a tweet a couple days ago, not even just over last night, and that was the last year that we actually finished under 500. So maybe it's a sign that baseball is humbling this organization as a whole, and just saying, look, you guys have had your run. Your formula has been diminishing year by year by year. You guys have been progressing backwards. You've regressed. Maybe the system of the game as we have it now is going to humble this organization, and we are going to finish under 500. It would not surprise me at this point. It might be that thing that really wakes everybody up to say, you know what? It's not working anymore. We need drastic. We don't need some philosophical changes. We need drastic philosophical changes. And that's only going to start with the change of a GM, which is why we were so pissed off when they gave him that extension. And we knew that extension was coming last year when they extended Boone. We knew when Boone got it, we knew that Cashman was right behind. We all know Cashman is Steinbrenner's adopted brother, and he's got a lifetime he will leave when he decides that he's done. I think finishing under 500 will force Hal to say, you know what? You've embarrassed this organization long enough. We tried giving you a chance. You have made this team exponentially worse year by year by year, despite the superstars we bring in, the prospects that we develop and call up, that you wanted to keep are not getting it done. After this whole baby Bombers thing from 17, the only one that's really survived is Judge. Severino's fallen off. Torres, even though he's having an okay year, he's not a superstar or an all-star. He's having a serviceable year, but we haven't really gotten from him what we were told we were going to get. Maybe it's time to get a new GM in before we start bringing up the next round of prospects. We're getting lucky with Volpe right now, but we know that's not going to happen. We all know it. We could talk about it till we're blue in the face. This team will never make any changes, but I think it's about time that baseball humbles the Yankees overall, and not just humbles the players.
Bro, we've been humbled already. Look at all the multiple wild card defeats that we've had, and the shocking amount of collapses that we've had late in seasons, right? But the problem is the Yankees rest on their laurels, and they rest on complacency. This is a complacent organization. This is not an organization which foresees events. They react when events happen, and they seem shocked when it goes badly for them. Like it's just their incredibly bad luck. No, it's not. They are an architect of their own downfall. And that's why I've been very frustrated every single postseason defeat, whether it's the sweep against the Astros in the ALCS or the wild card defeat against Boston or the collapse in the COVID season, and which the Yankees once again swept under the rug, because that's what they do. On an annual basis, they sweep these defeats under the rug in order to protect themselves. And when you do that, you're not really learning anything. And so it's just another season of just the same old, where we're talking about the same thing every single year, because all the Yankees do is want to make excuses so they can protect their own jobs and not have to face reality. And that's what's the most frustrating. It's like none of this is surprising, right? I'm not upset at the Yankees made history in all the wrong ways because I expected it. They've been doing this all season, man. They've been doing it most of last season after the All-Star break last season, right? And then they blew all of the COVID season. They started off hot and then they completely fell apart after that, right? And then, so it's been years of this. And it's like the organization is shocked that things go wrong for them. But just look at Brian Cashman's postseason press conferences. Look at them. When he blew the Davy Garcia, we've gone through it, but after that, right, the Yankees were getting hit from pillar to post. They were getting ripped apart for their management of that playoff series because they screwed it. There was no one else that screwed it. They blew it for themselves, right? Even Michael Kay, Mr. Yankee, destroyed the organization for that whole mismanagement of that playoff series, right? But what did Brian Cashman do? He sat down with a dossier, with an actual folder in front of him to go through why Yankee fans are stupid and they were smart and they were geniuses, even though it completely blew up in their face, right? And then when that happened, we were like, oh, these Yankees don't want to take any responsibility for anything, right? And then they just kept going on. And so, like, the COVID season came along. It was like, oh, well, it's just COVID, right? Fair enough. Okay, so the next season comes along. They blew it. They fell apart. What was it? Whose fault was it this time? And it was injuries. It was just a bit of bad luck. It was this, that, the other, right? And then you get to last season, and then it was the wind. It was the roof. It was injuries. It was just bad luck, right? And, the exit velo, ours exit velo was better than their exit velo, but that just means it's just bad luck, right? And it's just constant excuses because they don't want to face the reality that they haven't built a very good team. What did Aaron Boone say? Oh, it looks like the league is catching up to us. Remember when we were going nuts when he said that? Because it was such an embarrassment because the league had already passed the Yankees by. So what are they doing now? The Yankees are in last place. And that's what happens when you're a complacent organization, when you don't look ahead and you don't foresee events and you don't properly plan a roster. You don't properly develop the guys that you need to develop. You don't trade the guys that need to be traded. ahead of time in order to maximize their value and bring in somebody that can improve your team. They don't make any move that makes sense, and they fully deserve to be where they are. They are a last place team with Aaron Judge. They are a last place organization without Aaron Judge. They are a last place coaching staff without Aaron Judge. This is where the Yankees are. This is who the Yankees are. You want to know who the Yankees are? They are a 500 team because that's basically what they've been for the last 190 games. They are a 500 team which is kept afloat by Aaron Judge. And that is where the problem lies. And none of them want to face facts about it. Aaron Boone blew the game yesterday. But to be honest, he's not a good manager. We know he's not a good manager, but I can't look at too many games where he's the reason why the Yankees lost this season. Most of the reasons why the Yankees lost this season is firmly on the general manager. Firmly on the general manager.
Yeah, Donald, let's get some positive into this. Let's go through the roll call. So, Donald, give this awesome chat the roll call they deserve.
Yes, because we have actually had quite a good chat going on. Li, really nice to see Li, and good to see Jonathan. Good morning, TC Steels. Good morning, Sunil's my guy. Good to see you, Donald. Stop asking for too much, my guy. This team spells accountability with K's. Accountability. Yeah, you're right, man. TC Steels. This team is just bad. No need to sugarcoat it. Boone, Cashman, Howell. Amen. Steve Schumann, good to see you, man. Morning, guys. What a weekend. I live in Colorado near Denver. Thank goodness I did not attend any of these games. Yeah, that would have been frustrating. Although, full house, 47,000. That's pretty cool. It was a pretty good turnout. Shout out to them. Considered Colorado was such a loser organization, but they still managed to draw a decent crowd. And a lot of Yankee fans, of course, because we travel. Sunil, Boone, Cashman, and Howell should be the next Three Stooges. But for Curly, you need Randy Levine in there. Jonathan, Yankees may have to lose in order to learn what the obvious problems are. The Yankees actually have been losing for a long time, right? They're getting knocked out of the playoffs very early most seasons, but they don't want to face up to the facts. So they continue to say, oh, well, we made the playoffs. I'm happy. And that's where the problem lies. And yes, TC Steels, smack that like button. Jonathan, the outfield problem needs to be solved before the season. Of course, it needed to be solved. We were absolutely banging that drum. Steve, don't want to bring up Florial. Okay, bring up Pereira and put in a left fielder. See what we have. I don't care if he's not a lefty. Need to look towards 2024. Again, I've been saying this. I don't see the point in losing with retreads. I just don't see the point. Why lose with journeyman when you might as well develop these young guys and see what you got? Because you could save yourselves tens of millions in the free agent market or the trade market by possibly giving a chance to guys like Peraza. Oh, by the way, Peraza's had one at-bat this year, and he's already more productive than Josh Donaldson. One at-bat, and he's better than Josh Donaldson. So stop with these freaking excuses, Brian Cashman. Oh, Josh Donaldson's just run into some bad luck. It's really not fair on him, the 130 batting average he's got. Go F yourself, you lying buffoon. Oh, Peraza's had one at-bat, and he's driven in an RBI. And he looked a hell of a lot better because he actually saw a fastball, read a fastball, hit the fastball, and drove in a runner in scoring position. What has Josh Donaldson done? Absolutely square root of jack shit in 2 seasons. You lying piece of shit general manager. You are a liar. Stop frickin' lying to me. I am not taking any more bullshit from our general manager.
Yeah, good luck, TC. bring some rosary beads with you if you can. But Rob, when you're looking at we could go over the way that this team was constructed over and over again. But I think the chat is really hitting the nail on the head. It's time for the prospects to just call them up and see what you got. We were saying last week, it might be time to just give them a chance just to see what you have going into the deadline. You have a month to evaluate these guys. And it's already, now it's July 17th. And they're just bringing up Peraza to see what he can contribute. So where's the change going to come?
Well, let's be fair, or not fair. The only reason they called up Peraza is because Donaldson got hurt.
Yeah.
Otherwise, they wouldn't have made that move. They should have done this the second Aaron Judge got injured. You could have given, if you wanted, because Donaldson just came back, you wanted to give him, I said it, give him up until the break even. see what he can do. But they didn't use the All-Star break to reassess the roster at all because they ran the exact same lineup out the very first game outside of the break and said, Sean Casey, fix it. And Sean Casey, he's an on-base machine and he's a great guy and he's a likable guy and he's got a great baseball mind. He's never coached in his entire life. So they brought in another analyst straight from the booth and said, fix it. It's not fair to Sean Casey, especially when you're giving him a very poor lineup to try to fix. There's not a lot of things that you can say. There's upside here. Like I said it the other day. Stanton, Rizzo, LeMahieu, Torres, Bader, Donaldson even. These guys should already know what's wrong. They shouldn't have to have an MLB Network analyst come in and say, hey, this is what you're doing wrong. They should know. He can come in and say, hey, this is what you can do better to try to fix it a little bit, absolutely. But they've already been around long enough to know what needs to be fixed. What he should have been doing, they should have had Peraza up here for a long time ago. They should have been giving him – just had Casey in a room with Cabrera and Peraza and Volpe. Even I wish Florial was here. I would like to see Pereira. I think he's more ready than he was just 2 months ago because he's been killing it in AAA since he got called up. So I'm very happy for him, but I'm also terrified what they'll do to him when they get him to the main roster. But the fact is, a lot of these kids should be here. Austin Wells should be here. He should skip AAA altogether. He should. You want offensive catcher? You have one in your organization sitting right there. Mr. I can find out what's wrong with your prospect, your top prospect before you could. That's our hitting coach in AA. You don't call him up, but you just make a trade for somebody. Let's not look internally before we go trade everybody. That's the issue with this team. They don't want to give some of these kids chances. If they want to let Pereira get more time, fine. But why isn't Florial here? Why is Franchi Cordero taking a spot on this roster? Why? Why is he still here? Until they like have this epiphany of just like ding dong, something goes off in their head and they go, whoa, we're doing this all wrong. Nothing's going to change because we saw the Braves. They just called up somebody and what was it, the Braves? He skipped AAA altogether. They said, look, we need help. And they called them up.
The teams do that.
Yeah, the Orioles, who are in second place, they're like 2.5, 3 games out of first place against Tampa Bay. They've been calling up prospects left and right, and they're winning games. They said, okay, well, now we need some help. Colton Cowser, let's get him up here. They called up Henderson to start the year. Last year was Rutschman. They're calling up prospects left and right, and it won't be long before we see Jackson Holiday at this point for that team. Maybe in the next year and a half. But other teams do it. We just go, but they need more at-bats in the minors because we need to keep putting Higashioka out there because we think he might be able to hit one. We need to keep playing Josh Donaldson. Hey, let's give Franchi Cordero more at-bats because he might hit a home run every 15 at-bats and do nothing in between. That's the issue here, is they have all these minor leaguers they don't want to trade, they don't want to get rid of, and then they say, well, we're also not going to use you. That's where the issue lies. Like I said, I know a lot of people are talking about, go get Juan Soto. You have to go get him. He's not fixing everything on this team. He isn't. I'm sorry. The time to get him was last year when you were in first place. You needed another bat to put you over the top. Juan Soto should have been a Yankee last year. This year, he's not helping you. He's gonna win you more games. He'll probably get you into that third wild card spot, especially when Judge comes back. But he's not the answer to all your problems right now. Last year, he kind of was. Because last year you had a good pitching staff, you had a good bullpen, your lineup was still hitting because Judge was healthy, they got Stanton back. They would have added Juan Soto to that lineup. Last year, they probably don't go through that August slump. It's better. It's a lot better. And they probably win 100-plus games. And maybe they just go to the postseason and they just completely wreck things apart. Who knows? We don't know how it could have gone. But this year, it's not happening. When you have a lineup full of guys that are struggling. So, yeah, if you want to give Pereira a shot, do it. But will they? No, he's had like 6-7 games in AAA. They didn't want to give Volpe the shot because of his limited at-bats. They were hesitant to give it to Volpe. So I don't know if they're going to call up Pereira right now. So, again, most organizations would do these things. Austin Wells is about to be 24 years old, and they haven't brought him up to AAA yet. What are we doing here? You need a catcher who can hit. You have one. You have one with a major league ready bat sitting over there in Double-A in Somerset, and you don't want to use him. Instead, we're probably going to go make some crazy trade with a team like Chicago or St. Louis, because those two teams have everything that we're asking for. St. Louis has everything that we're asking for. They have outfielders. They have a bullpen guy. They have a starter that used to be our guy that we could potentially get back. And they have Contreras, who they might look to move on from, who's not making that much money, who's an offensive catcher. That could be the trade. I just said it on Twitter. They have everything that we're asking for. So it might be like, we're going to give you like 6 or 7 prospects for 4 different players, and we're going to fill all of our needs with a bunch of St. Louis Cardinals. That might be it. But why not just see what you have in these kids in the minor leagues? Why not? What is it going to do? It can't get much worse than this, because you just lost 2 out of 3 to one of the worst teams in the National League. And before that, you just lost 2 out of 3 to a below 500 team in the Cubs. And before that, it was the Cardinals, who were even worse than the Cubs. And before that, you struggled to beat Oakland. It's like, how can it get much worse than this? Why not? Why not give it a shot? At this point, you have nothing to lose but to see what you have in some of these minor leaguers. Because either we're going to trade a bunch of Rule 5 eligible guys to get a couple of guys that can help now, or we should just stay put. I don't think they should go all out for a Soto or an Ohtani, because it's not winning us a championship right now.
No, it's the fact that this is rock bottom for this organization, right? If it wasn't for Domingo's perfect game, you might not have even won the series against Oakland. You know, that's what it took for them to actually win a game, because before the break. That's how bad they were playing. That's how bad the offense was. You barely, yes, they put up 7 runs. The bullpen chose the worst series to have, the wheels come off a little bit. I mean, we're kind of giving the bullpen a pass because, and I still kind of do, but at the same time, I'm like, Boone has no sense of how to manage this team at all.
No,
why are you bringing in Nick Ramirez? You had Marinaccio. You had King. Why aren't you using those guys? It was just so frustrating that it's the same. Believe me, I didn't feel any as good as the bullpen has been. When you're up by 2 in the 11th and you're bringing in Nick Ramirez for his first major league save, I'm not feeling that confident. If it was King, Marinaccio going for his first career save, I'm a little more relaxed, and I know they already have their save, but you know what I mean? It's, you don't bring in, especially in that, I'm not even saying environment, because it comes down to the atmosphere in Denver, and where that stadium is. You don't put that kind of pressure on a guy. I thought that was very unfair to Ramirez.
Total mismanagement.
Exactly. And it goes down to every time a bullpen guy gets 2 strikes, he's running out with excitement to get in the next guy. Just let him finish the freaking inning. Don't even let the pitchers do that anymore. When was the last time a bullpen guy actually finished a freaking inning? Because you get, it's 3 batters and you're out. That is not keeping them healthy. That's not keeping them fresh. It's messing them up more than it's helping them.
And what's worse is the Yankees wasted a phenomenal start from Garrett Cole.
Yeah.
He had 11 strikeouts. We've not even mentioned that Garrett Cole was terrific. And the Yankees wasted that outing. And when you waste your ace outing, where he gives you pretty much as good as you could possibly ask, with 11 strikeouts and completely blowing Colorado away, and then just to put it in your bullpen, who completely imploded. I mean, this is a team where going into the 7th inning, the Yankees only gave up 1 run going into the 7th inning, and then ended up giving up like 8. So, it pretty much sums it up what happened here. It was a complete implosion from the bullpen, but a lot of it came from Aaron Boone just making the wrong calls, choosing the wrong guys. This is, we know what that ballpark is. That ball travels. So you want guys to come in that can keep the ball down on the ground. And Mike King, I think, was the guy to go for. They should have brought in Mike King. And I don't think putting Clay Holmes in a situation with the bases loaded is the right way to go with that because I think we know what he's like with the bases loaded or with people on base. He's not the same pitcher. You give him a clean inning, he's pretty much perfect this season.
Yeah.
But, in a situation where with a bases loaded and he's got no room to maneuver, I'm not exactly surprised that ball left the park. He should have been put in a clean inning. They should have had Mike King in there. They should have just handled that bullpen a hell of a lot better. But as Rob says, the Yankees plan for games ahead. They plan for games that haven't even been played yet.
Well, it's like TC says. It's like an exhibition game.
With a team that is in last place, that needs to stay afloat, that needs to make the last wild card spot, right? That needs to stay afloat for Aaron Judge coming back, right? It makes no sense to sacrifice games where they can easily win them by just making the right call with the bullpen. But no, they need to plan ahead for games that haven't been played yet. We're in no position to be doing that. But this is the way the Yankees have managed for years, but they never changed that philosophy. It's a dumb philosophy.
Dude, the Rockies didn't even want to win that game yesterday.
No.
They were handing it to us. They were like, here, take it. The Yankees said, no, we don't. You need it more than us. It was like a hot potato of who wants to lose. That's what the game was yesterday. It was so terrible. The Rockies were throwing the ball everywhere. And when we tied the game 5-5, it's like they couldn't have gift wrapped that for us more than they could. They were literally saying, we don't want to win. And the Yankees were like, yes, you do. That's what was going on. It was a back and forth of who wants to lose more. And you mentioned Garrett Cole. He just passed another Yankee record. He's only been here for 5 years of going on 5. He just surpassed Guidry, I think it was, with the most strikeouts, most games with multiple double-digit strikeouts, with 10 or more. In Yankee history. He just did that yesterday, and we wasted it against the Colorado Rockies, who are in last place, clearly trying to lose. They will be sellers at the deadline, whether they move 2 or 3 players. They will be making trades. Grichuk's probably gone. Maybe a guy like C.J. Cron gets traded, who hit the grand slam yesterday. But they are trying to lose, clearly trying to lose. And you couldn't beat them 2 out of 3 games, like against 6 ERA pitchers all across the board. Everybody they started had an ERA over 6, and we make them look like Cy Young. Like, we couldn't hit against Chase Anderson yesterday. Chase Anderson, who? Exactly. His ERA was almost 7, and we couldn't score until he was out of the game. And we were celebrating, oh, thank God we took him out of the game. And then we finally scraped some runs across the board. That's what we're going. That's what we're doing. And, yeah, the offense scored 7 runs against a team that was gift-wrapping you runs. Even when Anderson was pitching, he was trying to give up runs. Clearly,
yes, he was. We had multiple people on base. We just couldn't.
He was doing batting practice.
Yeah, and the influence was going around like a circus act. Believe it, we were gifted a lot. Like everybody, like we were saying, like we're saying, everybody else is saying in the chat. That was, if there was ever a game that was gift wrapped for this team, that was it. And when they opened it, it blew up in their face. Because
their third baseman was throwing the ball all over the ballpark.
It was terrible.
He was throwing the ball farther than we were hitting it most of the game.
It's sad, but I think you're right. You can't put that kind of, you can't. Yeah, Cole, 6 pitches, 6 innings, 102 pitches. Not his best, but it could have been worse because let's also just admit, with the offense, the Yankees, when was the last time they even put up 7 runs? That's what also made that outing a lot more painful. It's the umpire. Let me tell you, that was the widest strike zone I think I've seen in a while, and there was a lot of chirping from the dugouts. But where it's really. It shouldn't be brought up because it did benefit the pitching, and the pitchers did not take advantage of that strike zone. That's the other thing that bothered me. It's don't come into the plate. They would get the umpire was giving the outside corners all game to both sides. And they still decided to throw balls right down the plate, and that's where we lost the game.
Rob was right about them throwing batting practice. I mean, the amount of swings where there was pitches literally right down to Johnson. and they did nothing with it. They were fouling it off or grounding into a double play. It was insane. All series long, the only people that put together quality at-bats were Gleyber Torres and Big G. Those were the main quality at-bats. Couple of decent at-bats from DJ LeMahieu, but that was really about it. The quality at-bats came from Torres and Big G. And even yesterday, Stanton just missed a couple of home runs where he was just a little out in front. Otherwise, those balls were going right out of the ballpark. It's just outside of him, we need to talk about Anthony Rizzo. And Anthony Rizzo has gotten a wide berth here in the Pinstripe Chronicles. We all love him. We all love him. He's everything that we want as a Yankee. He's a great guy. He's Italian. He's a Yankee fan. He tries to play every game. Plays great first base. Good bat, but my God, he's been horrible since May. 0 home runs and a 100 batting average since May. This is an embarrassment, man. Like, he started off on fire. He had 11 home runs. He was looking good, and he's had no home runs since. And his at-bats have been poor, and the Yankees have desperately needed him, and he hasn't stepped up. And you start to wonder, do you think that maybe the Yankees should have gotten Matt Olson when they had the opportunity?
That's an option. I was watching.
He has 30 home runs this season, by the way.
Yeah. No, when you're looking at Rizzo, the one thing I was really, normally I'm running around, I'm listening to the game, but yesterday I was able to sit and watch it, which is rare. His at bats. Let me tell you, he was hitting that ball hard. He was really. The only thing I took away after the game with Anthony Rizzo is he has had the worst luck when he makes contact. He's hitting that ball 100 plus miles an hour, and it doesn't matter where he hits it. It just seems like there's a glitch in the outfield, and the play just appears right there. And it's really becoming bad luck for him. I just think he doesn't need hard line drive hits to get out of this. He needs a couple of bloops to just fall in by accident. Because you could just see his body language is really it is alarming. It is starting to go into a panic mode with him because you're just looking at him and you're like, he's out of ideas of what to do to get out of this.
It's the lack of power with him because he hasn't hit a home run in like 40-something games or something like that. His slugging is like 230 over that span. And it's with Judge, he's been outstanding. Without Judge, he's as lost as the rest of this team. So clearly, we said it earlier, we've been saying it all year. Who holds this team together? It's Aaron Judge. He's the glue that makes this team somewhat good. Because without him, we've been searching for far too long. Every single time he's been out, and he's been out for what 40-something games in total this year, 50-something games, and we haven't been able to hit without him. We are one of the worst offenses in baseball without Aaron Judge. The fact that at $300 million payroll, one player goes down and you can't score consistently with the likes of Stanton and Rizzo and Torres and LeMahieu, Bader in the lineup, that's a problem. And the fact that we're still looking for a left fielder, that's a problem. Now that we need an upgraded catcher, we could have had one already. That's a problem. So again, all these issues, and I don't know if there's one trade that's going to save this team. And if it is, it's going to be going all out to get multiple players from a team like Chicago or St. Louis, and hope that they can just turn this team into a better team and just survive until Judge comes back. Because right now they're not surviving; they're sinking. They're clearly sinking because they've fallen out of the playoffs. Even before, you're like, all right, well, they still have the second wild card spot even without Aaron Judge. They're the third wild card team, and they had a couple of games up. Now Toronto's caught fire. Boston's caught fire. The Angels are still alive in it. Seattle, they're still a good team. They could always make some noise. The Yankees have fallen out of it. They're 2-3 games back from a wild card spot now, so it has fallen. They have sunk. How can they continue to say it's fine? It's right there in front of us. No, it was, but you have allowed it to fall behind you. if we were still holding a wild card spot, Aaron Boone could say, look, it's still right in front of us. We just got to get going. Yeah, at that point, you're like, it's the same old crap, but at least he's got a point. We still do have a playoff spot, even without our best player while we're struggling. But now the other teams that we were afraid of, like Toronto and Boston, are catching fire at an alarming rate. They are red hot. And that's not even mentioned the fact that Tampa Bay has scuffled a little bit. We could have made some noise we could have made some push in the division had we just been better against these bad teams. But no, we haven't. So it's not right in front of us. It isn't. Well, it kind of is. It's it's ahead of us. Now we really are looking up, and that is in front of us, and we got to go catch it again. But we're starting to fall behind. They're lapping us, and they've been lapping us for a while. And the team is poorly run. They don't understand when the right time to make a change is. And until they decide that's the case, and they got to make some changes across the organization, we're going to see more of the same.
I think LI deserves a shout out here. He's spot on. You could have had Cody Bellinger for just money. Instead, you're going to have to now give prospects just to get them. And that just speaks to the Yankees' lack of foresight. It's as if they're surprised that not having a left fielder going into this season was going to be a problem. And that's what I'm talking about. It's just like there's no foresight and poor planning in this organization. They rest on their laurels, and they rather rest on excuses than just going, dude, we can't go into this season without a left fielder. That's ridiculous. But they did it, and look where we're at, last place. So there you go. That tells the story. There's too many holes in this team. It's not just left field. As Rob was saying, man, if you're going into the deadline and you need to look at 4 or 5 positions, that's a problem. And that speaks to something where I think we should actually not do that. I wouldn't do that. I don't think that we're a trade or two away from being contenders. There's so much wrong. There's so much wrong here that what really should happen is, I think you should probably make a deal for a veteran left fielder, right? Because no one wants to just go and just say, right, we're going to lose, right? So I think you bring in a veteran left fielder and try and do something with Aaron Judge, right? Maybe make the wild card, maybe try and steal a game, and steal the series and maybe make a playoff run of some sort. But they're not doing anything. They're not going to win a World Series. They're not going to win an ALCS. It ain't happening. Not under a million years. Not happening this year. Right?
No, they're going to make.
It's very simple. I would look at our prospects. I would look at Wells, and I would look at more Peraza. I'd have Peraza play third base, and see maybe if a Volpe Peraza partnership at the bottom of the order would maybe boost things up a little bit, shake things up. I would have Wells maybe learn under a Trevino at catcher or whatever, and just and see if maybe his major league caliber bat would, which he's got. He doesn't have a glove yet, but he's got a major league caliber bat. Maybe that would freshen things up. Or at worst, he plays DH, and the Yankees have Stanton play the corner outfield, one of the corner outfield spots. I would do some of these things. I would look at our prospects, see what we have, and then go into this offseason with better knowledge. Is Peraza going to be our third baseman moving forward? Can he do it, right? Is Rizzo past it? I don't know. We need to see. You need to then go through the whole organization, all the roster positions with a clean slate. You need a new manager. Even though this season I don't really put on Aaron Boone, I just don't think he's a good manager. He's not a good strategist. This is not a good team for him. He's a guy that needs a team that's ready to go, that will like the fact that he's kind of one of the guys, right? But this is a team that needs a strategist, right? This is a guy that needs to know how to manage a bullpen and how to inspire guys on a daily basis. I don't think that's Aaron Boone's cup of tea. It never has been, right? This is a team that actually needs a manager now, and that's not really Aaron Boone's best asset, let's be fair. But again, like, I can completely blame him for last season. I thought he did a horrible job last year, and the year before that, and probably the year before that. But I can't put too much on him for this year. I think it's all about Brian Cashman. Brian Cashman's screwed things up so badly. Look at this mess with Dylan Lawson. No one thought Dylan Lawson was a good hitting coach. Nobody thought he was a good hitting coach. including Aaron Judge, because Aaron Judge didn't ever listen to him. He had his own hitting coach, right? And it took our our minor league catcher telling Volpe what the problem was with his swing than Dylan Lawson. So Dylan Lawson's been a problem, but the Yankees covered for him for too long, right? And by the way, their bats are better without him. Like the quality of at bats have improved. We are actually getting people on base as opposed to Dylan Lawson, where we were just swinging at one pitch and out. At least we're actually getting people on base this time. So it has been an improvement since he's gone. It just speaks to this joke that Brian Cashman's put together. A poorly mismanaged roster, very poorly planned roster, no left fielder, and also one of the worst hitting coaches in the league that had to be fired midseason, which is the first time that's happened under a Brian Cashman tutelage, that he had to actually fire a coaching staff member during the season. It's less of an indictment on Dylan Lawson than it is on Brian Cashman, because he's the one that went all to bat for this guy, and Dylan Lawson can't do it. He was a terrible hitting coach, horrifying hitting coach. He screwed his team. Horrible job, but it's all about Brian Cashman. He's the one that hired him. Brian Cashman has to go. At the end of the season, he has to go and get a new general manager to walk in and go, right, these are the positions we need, and this is how we're going to go about getting them. That's what you need to do. Yep. In the meantime, we need to strategize. Use the rest of the season to strategize. This season's too far off in order to win a world championship. So there's no point making a deal for Ohtani or Soto or anything like that. I'd make a veteran deal for a left fielder and then bring out some of these kids and see what you got with them. And then go into the offseason and completely disembowel this roster and start from scratch. That's what I would do.
Yeah. We have a new voice into the chat. Will Starr, welcome to the Pitch Track Chronicles. Hope you're enjoying the show. And thanks for joining us in the chat.
Yeah, man, hit the subscribe.
Everybody, make sure we welcome Will in with open arms as we always do. But no, here's the biggest problem that's going to happen. We're only 2 games behind Boston to jump into that with 3 games to jump over into that third wild card spot right now. All right, they're going to figure out how to do that, and we're going to squeak into the wild card. We're going to get our asses kicked. And they're going to be like, well, we made the playoffs. It was a good year. And they're just going to go through the whole stupid bullshit rinse and repeat in the offseason. And what they're going to do, or what they're going to do with the trade deadline to get to that point, rather than bring up these prospects like we were talking about earlier. They have all these prospects that they want to make room for. They don't want to trade for because they're so fucking valuable that you can't even trade them for Fort Knox right now. And they're going to go and they're going to make a stupid trade for an aging veteran that's just going to give us maybe a week or 2 where we're like, oh, here we go, blah, blah, blah. And then they're going to fall flat on their face. And we're going to just end up in the same stupid scenario. Just bring up these kids, cut this, you're already paying, Donald's, just pay him not to play at this point. And I know he's on the IL, but don't let him come back.
Donaldson. That was the best thing that happened to this weekend was Josh Donaldson being injured. Yeah. Honestly, sorry, it's the truth.
And Ron tweeted it out, and I completely agree with him. You don't want nobody wants anybody to get hurt playing. Especially when it's their livelihood. You don't want that.
I did,
but
I have no time for Josh Donaldson. He can go take a running.
But it gave the opportunity that they would have never have taken otherwise in bringing up Peraza. And he made an immediate impact in his first game, his first at bat. Man, brings in a run. And it's like, all right, what were you waiting? Look at the difference between Donaldson's at bat and Peraza's at bat. Age versus
that Josh Donaldson was not going to catch up with that fastball.
No.
But Peraza did, and he hit it in RBI. Josh Donaldson has had all season to hit a fastball. He can't do it. That's why he's batting like 130, and he has like 11 hits all season long. So just give me a freaking break. This guy's done. He's toast. He's forget about it.
He's been done for the last 2 years. And again, we talked about this time after time. To me, That is the worst trade he has ever made. It's the
Oh,
worst trade he's ever made because it hindered so much of what we could have done 2 years ago. It hindered what we could have done last year, this year in the offseason. Everyone wants to point out Stanton's contract as what kept us from getting certain players. No, this Josh Donaldson trade has kept us from getting actual help on this team. They had every excuse to use the lockout to just run the same team back last year, and it would have still been a 99 to 100 plus win team last year with Urshela as your shortstop and DJ at third. It would have been because they would have been better than Donaldson and IKF were last year. Every excuse to run it back, and they didn't do it. Instead, somebody told Brian Cashman that taking $25 million a year for an aging, declining player was a good idea. That's what's wrong with this organization. And now they won't move on from that player because they don't want to admit they're wrong. And it took for that player to get hurt for them to be like, twice now, by the way, that they've had to it took an injury for us to get Peraza up here to replace him. Happened earlier this year, and it just happened 2 days ago. It's happened twice now. The only reason they called up a guy who was once their third top prospect, he's since graduated, I believe, from prospect status, but it took them two times for an injury to be like, let's give this kid a shot. What's going to happen if Donaldson's back in 2 weeks? Are they going to say, well, Peraza, here you are hitting 260, good on base, the slugging's okay, you're stealing bases, you've driven in some runs, you played good defense, but we got Donaldson back, we don't need you anymore. At that point, it's going to be too late to trade him because the deadline will be passed, and you're going to sit him in AAA again? No, just move on. This should be the time. Florial should have been here months ago. They don't want to do that, fine. Give it to Pereira at this point. I kept saying I don't think he's ready, but maybe he is now because AAA already looks too easy to him. So maybe you give him the shot. Skip AAA altogether for Austin Wells. Get him up here now. You want offense from the catcher position? Instead of trading for a guy like Contreras who's got a big contract or a guy like Grandal, don't do it. Just give it to Wells. It can't get worse because your catchers have been historically bad offensively. Higgy's been okay at times, and then other times he looks lost. Trevino looks like he can't hit at all. He looks worse than last year, and he wasn't that good last year. So what are we waiting for? You just lost 2 out of 3 to the worst team in the National League or second worst team in the National League, whatever. And they're going to go into L.A. and be like, well, we're turning around against these guys. No, what happens when you face Ohtani? What happens if you're going to pitch to Ohtani? We got Severino starting tonight. We might be down 7-0 after an inning at this point, the way he's been pitching. I don't know. I don't know. What do you have to lose at this point? You can still say you're going for it while giving a chance to some of these guys who are your top prospects. It's not like Pereira and Wells and Florial's not a prospect anymore, but he was once their top guy. But it's not like these are guys that are just sitting in AAA like Wilmer Defoe and Hermisilo, whatever his name is. It's not like these are journeymen that we're asking you to call up. We're asking you to call up guys who were once top prospects or are your top prospects just to give them a shot. Because instead of trading them for a rental, because it's going to be an overpay if you get Bellinger, because a lot of teams are going to want him. So L.I. brought this up the other day. It will be an overpay to go get Cody Bellinger.
Yep. Unless
you're getting a guy who's under team control for multiple years, like a Brendan Donovan or a Lane Thomas, it's still going to cost you a lot in price. Is Lane Thomas saving this season? No. Is Donovan saving this season? No. I don't even think Juan Soto's saving this season, and he's not even a rental. But it's going to cost you a lot to get one of those guys. So if you want to bring in a veteran bat that's a rental, like you did last year, like for Benintendi, sure, go for it. That's not an overpay. But the only other player that I can think of would be Grichuk, and he might be an overpay at this point because a lot of teams are going to want him. You're going to be overpaying for a rental that's not saving this season. Give the shot to the kids in the minors who have earned it, and let's roll with that. And maybe it provides a spark for the veterans because it happens all the time. They see these young players come up and they just bring energy. It's a different sport. Back in the day, you never dreamed of a 21-year-old coming up in the middle of a season and providing a spark. Now they're getting called up like freaking wildfire. It's just like boom, boom, boom. Every other team in baseball is like, this kid's killing it. Let's call him up. This kid's killing it. Why wait? Call him up. The Yankees are like, he needs AAA at bat. Oh, yeah, Josh Donaldson. We have Franchi Cordero. We don't need it. We have Franchi Cordero. We have Billy McKinney. We have Jake Bowers, who to his
Cordero hasn't hit since April. Oh,
yeah.
God.
I miss Jake Bowers. That's what it's come to. We miss Jake Bowers in this lineup. Like he was our best hitter before he got hurt. So it's sad. It's really sad. Why not give a shot to the
This
kid?
speaks to why you don't wait until the trade deadline to bring in important pieces like a left fielder. That's why you don't do it. That's why it was always a poor strategy, and it's coming back to haunt them now. You cannot go into the trade deadline and be beholden to another organization who are going to be like, you guys don't have a left fielder. You went into this season without a left fielder, and you're supposed to be a championship club, and you didn't have a left fielder. I want some of your top prospects, and I'm going to give you mine. Because that's why you never should go into negotiations with a losing hand. And the Yankees have a losing hand because they're desperate. And it's because of Brian Cashman. They had to bring in a left fielder. They had to do it in the winter. Now, if I am Hal Steinbrenner and I'm sitting there and Brian Cashman, his little baldy head comes in and he says, no offense, Tats, and he comes in and goes, we need to raise another $10 million, $15 million for our payroll so I can add another bat. If I was Hal Steinbrenner, I'd go fuck yourself because I've given you $300 million and you can't do shit, right? And we have like 4 positions that we don't have because, and I've given you $300 million and we're like 4 or 5 positions short because of you. So that's one thing I would say. The second thing I would say is, okay, I'll give you that, but you got to find a way to move Josh Donaldson because you clown screwed us up with this right? Now, so you need to clear up some salary, and then you can bring in all you want. The cows come home, but you have screwed this, Brian. That's exactly what I would say as the owner, because it's the truth, it's the facts, and he needs to know it, he needs to learn it, and he needs it shoved down his face because I am sick of him shoving bullshit down our faces. It's time for him to face some reality. He's fucked us with this team. It's a joke of a team.
It is a joke because here's what's they're not going to do anything, and I think that this. Where was the comment? Sunil here. It's when Greg Allen, they're saying he's on the way, and this is why we get so pissed off. Hal, this is why we're not happy because this is the exact move that's going to happen. And Sunil, if this happens, you're getting the credit for it because they're going to send Peraza down before Cordero when Greg Allen comes back. Because that is such a Cashman move, it's not even fucking funny anymore.
It's true.
Because you could see it already. And even LI, his hot take that they want to acquire a left. We don't need a left fielder. We got IKF. So what do we need a left fielder for? Like this is Cashman's mindset. Well, between IKF, Greg Allen, and Oswaldo Cabrera, what do you need left? What do we need an outfield for? Judge will be back by September 30th, and everything will be fine.
The only reason why I think we're going to get one is because he actually said it yesterday in an interview. He said we need an outfielder. Like he actually came out and said it. If he didn't, if he would have said, well, we have some guys coming back, and that would have alluded to Greg Allen and Bowers and Calhoun and Judge. And I would have been like, well, they're not making a move. But the fact that he actually went and said it, despite the fact that we have Judge coming back, he's not a left fielder, and Greg Allen coming back, who was okay, but a backup at best. I do think we're going to get somebody, but if it's Randall Grichuk, it doesn't give me reason to believe they're serious. None of these trades are putting us over the top, unless it's some super trade with San Diego and they fall out of it completely, and you can get a pitcher and an out and Juan Soto. But again, what's it going to take to get those players? And is it taking us from last place to World Series contender? I know teams have done it in the past. The Braves did it. I think the Phillies were in last place and they fired Girardi. There's some proof for you, but the whole Girardi debate. And then they went to the World Series. But we shouldn't be saying teams have done it in the past, so we can do it too. The Braves already had a good team. They added to it. The Phillies had a good roster. They just needed a coaching change. And look what happened to them. Phillies had a loaded roster. And they had to make a complete change at the manager, not hitting coach, not pitching coach. They went to a different manager and said, fix this. And he did. And by the way, that's a manager that we let go.
That's the manager that we talked about wanting on the show when that happened.
Yeah.
The difference between those teams that you mentioned, and the Yankees is that those teams actually manage to win.
Yeah.
They manage games in order to try and win on a daily basis. But the Yankees do the opposite. They're like, well, we have a game like a week from now, and I really want to set bullpen for that, right? So I'm going to use Nick Ramirez for a closing situation in this game because we really want to plan ahead for next week. And the Yankees do this in the frickin' playoffs. They pretty much sent out a punt lineup in game 1 of the ALCS last year, and they're shocked that they got frickin' swept, right? This is what happens when you plan ahead for things that aren't there yet. You manage for the game that is happening right now. You win what you can possibly win right now. That is how you succeed. That is how you get into October. That's how you get hot in October, and that's how you win in October. The Yankees don't do that. The Yankees haven't faced the fact that when you plan ahead for bullpen games that haven't happened yet, this is what happens. You lose games that you should win, and then you're in last place, and you're desperately begging for a left fielder, which you should have gotten the winner, and begging for Aaron Judge to come back, which you should have gotten him some help, and you had all offseason to do. So, sorry. This is all on the Yankees, and I have no faith that even if they did bring in Soto, that anything would be different because they don't have a manager who has the strength in his convictions to go, analytics guys, go shove off. This is how we need to win in this particular game right now. They don't do it, right? Aaron Boone doesn't sit down with these players that are misperforming, underperforming, playing like shit, and he doesn't tell them, hey, you guys need to get the fuck up, get it together, and start playing like Yankees. He doesn't do it. He's like, oh, we'll be fine, right? So that complacency is all over the organization. So fix that, and you'll fix the Yankees.
Yeah, it's the same problems, like we keep saying, are just going to happen over and over and over again. And we're just going to have the same complaints when we come in on Wednesday. But at least we'll have this awesome chat that'll be joining us. But that is going to wrap things up for us today. I think we've exhausted, we're just exhausted of the same old bullshit because we all know what's going to happen. Nothing. But we'll continue to vent about the nothingness of the New York Yankees on Wednesday at 10 a.m. As always, remember, like, share, comment, subscribe. And as always, again, wear those pinstripes of pride. Yankees don't. And play hard.